Hey guys, thanks for taking the call. Big Mets fan. I was at work, catching the game, listening to it whenever I could, and then picking it up on the way home. My son was texting me, telling me they're getting no hit. I mean, I called in a few weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, and the discussion was the Mets don't make the playoffs. Are you content with the way the season went? I called and I answered that and you know, I have a Sunday plan, so you know I've got money invested in being a fan with the Mets. But couple questions for you guys. So, you know, I'm a bit biased, so you know if I had a vote, I'd give Lindor the MVP vote. With regards to Ohtani, I mean, there's no doubt about what type of talent Ohtani is. That being said, he's not pitching this year, and I'd never give a DH a vote. I mean, the guy would have to. I mean, he'd have to surpass the Barry Bonds home run total.
Yeah, but 50-50 is kind of like
50-50
is kind of like special. That's like the Barry Bonds season.
But then you look at Lindor and only Alex Rodriguez, and I think he tied I forget who he tied with 5 seasons of 30-30. I mean, the guy's playing after the catcher's position. He's playing the toughest position in all of baseball.
Ed, we're not going to argue with you. He's having an MVP-type season. We thank you for the call. The only thing that's going to stand in his way is that you're having a guy who's a unicorn who's having a season that's never been done before. No one's ever done 50-50. And his team is also going to win the West. The Mets aren't going to win the East. So as great as Lindor's been, he hasn't catapulted them over the Phillies. So I think he's going to finish second. And in most other years, he'd win. But, Don, I think the 50-50 thing is too much of an impediment to overcome.
Yeah, I think Lindor will get votes because there will be guys that think like the caller, I'm not going to give it to a DH. And there may be some who just feel like the true definition of MVP. Yes, Ohtani's the better player, better batting average, more home runs. He's going to go 50-50. But could the Dodgers find a way to make the playoffs if Ohtani didn't play?
Don't know. They've had so many injuries, Don. Maybe they couldn't.
I know, maybe not. But I could tell you, watching Lindor every day, and I don't watch Ohtani every day, but watching Lindor every day, I can say with the utmost confidence that if not for Lindor, this team would not get a sniff.
You're probably right.
He turned it around. Once he turned it around, the team turned it around. He's been a leader. He's an A-plus defender. He has been clutch. So I think he'll get votes. But it's unfortunate for him. It comes in a year where Ohtani's going to do something that's just absolutely so special that even though he's a DH, he'll win it. I guess he'll become the first DH to do it.
Well, I think I looked that up the other day. I guess the guy who DH'd the most and won the MVP was Don Baylor, and that was the year that many people thought Ken Singleton should win. But Don Baylor played in the field some, but the majority of his games were as a DH.
And that's a long time ago.
But Ohtani has not played in the field once.
Not once. Now, obviously, you say he's a unicorn. Well, not this year because he hasn't pitched.
Well, he is a unicorn in the fact that he has 50 home runs. He's going to steal 50 bases.
Right, absolutely. But also, and again, I'm not taking anything away, but I think you're going to start seeing, you know, when we had 30 for 30 years, which like Strawberry and with Howard Johnson, it was relatively new because most people that had power didn't have speed.
Right.
It's easier to steal bases now than it's ever been. So, and he's taking advantage of it. I don't want to take anything away, and I'm conceding the fact that he's going to win it. But I do think Lindor shouldn't just be completely dismissed because I think he's really having a special season, even though the numbers don't suggest he's even in the same stratosphere with Ohtani. If there were an award, Michael, Best Player MVP, I think Lindor might get the MVP. But because there isn't a split, it's going to be Ohtani.
I would tend to agree with you, but I would also say that Ohtani's been pretty darn valuable to the Dodgers. Because remember, Mookie Betts missed about 3 months. Most of their starting staff has been hurt.
True.
So, I mean, he's been pretty valuable. It's not like he's just putting up numbers. The way Andre Dawson did, or the way Ripken did when they finished last. These are numbers that are important.
But this team is loaded. Okay, even with the injuries that they've had, they've got some really, really good players. They were the favorites to win their division. The Mets were looked upon as a team that, let's be honest, Michael, many thought, even though they didn't talk that way, many thought they were taking a knee this year. And for them to be above, not just above 500, 80 wins, I think 90's on the table, right? I mean, they're going got 16 games left. They can go 10-6.
You kind of want them to go 10-6.
Yeah. So even if 10-6 isn't enough for them to be able to make the playoffs, which it might not be. I mean, who had them penciled in for 90 wins and maybe north of that to start the season? So all these things apply.
Isn't that amazing, though? Because I think teams were built by their models to win about 86, 87 games. And everybody thought, well, that'll get us into the postseason. It's not going to. 90 might not. They, as you said, they could go 10-6 and not get in.
And last year, what was the Diamondbacks had 84?
Yep.
You know, so yeah, I think you want to try to strive for 90. And the last I looked, Michael, I'm going to check now. The last I looked, I think the Mets would be the second wild card in the American League. Yeah, right? Yeah, they have the exact same record as Kansas City. 80-66, and Kansas City is the second wild card. WAR. What is it good for? No, WAR for Lindor, 6.5.
And what is it for Ohtani?
7.2.
Close.
Now, it's close, but here's the thing. That's how special Ohtani's been offensively. That without playing the field, because WAR also factors in how you play defensively.
Right.
So Lindor is a Gold Glove shortstop, and that's factored into his 6.5, and yet Ohtani, who hasn't stepped on the field with a glove, is still beating with a 7.2. And you know a lot of people look at WAR as the determining factor on who is going to win the MVP.
And you know what? Then, in addition to the Hockey Tua podcast, you could start your Met podcast, WAR with Lindor. This is going to be a big
all coming together. Now, how much you pay me for that, Michael?
The same thing ESPN pays you for the hockey one.
Is there enough time for Lindor to surpass
Yes, he
Ohtani?
Can get. Well, Ohtani has to shut it down and stop getting points because each day you kind of add more if you do something. So Lindor would have to just go off on a toot, which he did today. I bet you that doesn't include the home run, right?
Well, I'm on Baseball Reference, so I'm not.
Yeah, they might have updated.
They might have updated, but the thing is that that's still a major lead for Ohtani not being in the field.
It is. It's very telling because Lindor isn't just a good shortstop; he's outstanding, and he's just accrued that much WAR. And also the fact that Lindor had a terrible April also hurt him.
I loved it. I rubbed it on myself.
Because if he had a normal April, Don, he'd be closing in maybe on a 7.5 WAR. Then you could talk.
Yeah, then I think it'd be on.